Hello and welcome to another video of Hearts and Minds. I'm going to do a little let's play kind of thing of the new public version of the mod 1.7 that's just been released today on the 23rd of February to support the new Hearts of Iron 4 patch 1.3.3 that's just come out with lots of changes, and this mod has also been updated with quite a few improvements. We're going to play a game and we're going to see what happens. This version has the new AI changes that hopefully make it a little more cohesive in the way it handles the ideology drifting that this mod introduces. And yeah, we'll get started, I guess. I'm going to play as Iran because they're in a nice position to observe the world and see what happens, and then also they're in the middle, basically, of the whole map, so we can kind of go in a few directions. Yeah, so this is basically the first let's play type thing I've ever done, so probably won't be that great, but we'll see. And hopefully there's no horrible game-breaking bugs that get revealed, because that would be embarrassing, especially because this is public. But just to introduce the mod, I guess, if people haven't actually played this before, is on Steam Workshop, and the goal of the mod was, or is essentially, to try and add more variety to the game, and to make the game feel like it's pushing back against you a little bit as the player, because you know, if you compare it to something like EU4, you know, in that game it feels like you the player don't really have to be there, and the game is going to go on, and you essentially have to kind of keep up and try and push it in your direction, but there's always feedback. Other countries are doing things, and there's lots of events to react to, and internal struggles and things that you have to go through. And I think in Hearts of Iron, every game essentially felt the same. You know, it kind of goes in the same direction, and as the player you tend to just decide who wins, because there's just not a lot of pushback really from the game. And so I wanted to do something about that, which is why I added a bunch of minister options in different categories that provide you with a lot of options and are quite cheap, so you can swap them out and gain different benefits at different times during the game. And I haven't done research, so let's do that before I've capped out my thing. And add more things for you to spend political power on, although they're also overall a bit cheaper, but there's just more options hopefully. And there are currently over 50, or even maybe now over 60 new events in the game that fire. Some of them during war. There's a lot of them for wartime specifically, but some for different ideologies that hopefully don't really get in the way, but they just provide you with something to react to, and so usually give you an option for bonuses, or whether you want to like spend some political power for something or not, and that kind of thing. Just to try and make the game continuously involving, even during peacetime. You know, ideally, I'd like players to kind of just stay on a solid kind of speed 3 or speed 4 throughout the whole game, rather than just in war, because you know, it tends to be that you just go at speed 5 until the next, you know, focus is finished or research or whatever, and then you kind of pause for a second and speed on, and I think that kind of defeats the point really. There's a lot of, you know, wasted space there, and it also gives you a false sense of time, I think, during the game, because you just kind of want to keep going, and even during war you're like expecting to be going faster than you probably should. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'd like to kind of, you know, try and fix that, at least what I think is an issue, and just keep you constantly engaged. And to do that I probably need like twice as many events as I have now, and that takes a lot of time, but I'm getting there, and the basic options are added, and there are a bunch of law changes as well. So these laws, except for trade law actually, but all the others cost maintenance in political power, So, good lord. So, having a high level of conscription will cost you more political power to maintain. Because, drafting more and more people takes a lot more effort to do, and so that's some kind of reflection that your country kind of slows down as you get more of these, and keeping a war economy or even a total mobilization, keeping everyone on the same path and forcing all companies to work towards the war effort and that kind of thing takes a lot of energy out of the country or out of the government. And so I'm going to go down collectivist. I think I'll go communist in this game, just to be interesting. Because, I guess going democratic would be slightly more interesting maybe, but everyone seems to go fascist, so I'll go communist. And I'm next to my friends in the Soviet Union, so... we have a look around actually and see where nations are going. This is with historical focus off, so countries will diverge more than they will otherwise do. Looks like the British Raj is probably going democratic, which is good for the Allies. And Afghanistan's going fascist, as they often seem to do. And Iraq's going fascist. Okay. And maybe Turkey's going democratic. So in some ways that's a good thing, I suppose, because that means I have enemies rather than other communist nations. And I should really pick something because I'm wasting time. I'm actually going to bump this up because I get extra political power. And let's pick this. So there are some other little changes, such as industrial companies now also boost the construction speed of certain buildings, just because I feel like these should be a better or a more decisive choice. So industrial company, or the equivalent in nations with specific companies, that reduces or increases the speed of civilian factory construction by a little bit. Electronics concern affects anti-aircraft and radar construction quite a lot. And I also added mining companies, so you can extract more resources and that kind of thing. So hopefully these are just slightly stronger choices. And material designers also affect the production cost of relevant equipment. So if you want to go into artillery, then you might want to choose the artillery company, and you get a production reduction on that. Or it means that the equipment is cheaper to produce, so you can produce more for less resources. Or you can go infantry equipment, which is pretty universally good, but it's a slightly less production cost reduction. But at the same time, if you're in a big country, you might not need to do this because you can just produce lots of infantry equipment anyway, and so maybe you want to focus on extra artillery or go heavily into motorized or something like that. So yeah, there's little changes like that as well. So if I'm going communist, see, another thing is all these ministers, not only do they give you specific bonuses in specific areas, they also each have their own ideology. And so this is another way to kind of drift in one direction or another. Or I can choose party propaganda, and there's a load of options here that drain political power but give you some kind of boost. And in fact I am going to enable the hard left, go towards communism, which is going to drain 0.25 political power. But it'll help. I want to get there pretty quickly so that I can maybe avoid the Allies guaranteeing some countries, but we'll see. Industrialist, I want that. Yeah, so like this guy, he's an industrialist, which means that he gives a construction speed bonus to civilian factories, and he's a revolutionary, which means he boosts communism. But any ideology have access to all of these options, so you can, choose. Hopefully, that gives the choice slightly more weight, because there's kind of something at stake. It's not just you get a free bonus or whatever. You can be a fascist country and have like a couple of communists, and so they will grow communism to a certain extent. But because of the way it balances out, it won't like fully overtake fascism if you have the rest of them as fascist ministers. But it will open up you to some communist supporting events and that kind of thing. But you might like that their construction bonus or something like that. So it's an option you have to think through. I'm going to go down construction speed first, I think. So yeah, hopefully there's a lot more things to think about and consider. What about Saudi Arabia? What are they doing? Going probably neutral, I guess. Because the AI has the option of going down one of the three ideologies or a neutral option, which doesn't necessarily mean they will stay neutral, but they will basically pick any minister but favour conservative ministers. And conservative ministers just affect ideology drift, as opposed to having a specific ideology, so anyone can use those and not be negatively affected. It looks like France is predictably going down the democratic route, which is probably a good thing for them. And as you can see here, one of the things is I also did recently in the new version is release the Kingdom of Egypt as a separate country, although it is a dominion of the UK. And I mentioned that in another video, so I guess I don't need to go through it all again, but the idea is that they were occupied by that's missing something, but I need to fix that, but there you go. They were occupied basically by Britain, rather than just a straight, core and owner of the UK, which I don't think really represented that very well. And in future, hopefully, I'll be able to add an Egyptian focus tree, maybe, that shows a lot of the interesting political stuff that was happening over the fight for the Suez, which is controlled by the UK. And what's I need more factories. Change these guys, I guess. Yes. So what did that give me again? Communist support. Okay, so that's pretty good. I could get loads of political power. Maybe I'll do this now. So at least I have my support going pretty strong. And I can get someone else. That gives industrial research time, which is pretty good. Just generally pretty good, but there's also communists get quite a lot of research bonus. Well, communist ministers provide quite a lot of research, it seems. Yeah, so like here, this guy, civilian factory construction speed bonus, and this guy gives a research time bonus, and he's a minister of education. And they do a lot of different things in different areas. And I've thought about renaming these to just advisors or something, since it doesn't really make sense you'd have no ministers at the start of the game. But I don't know. Maybe it's just a conceit you have to give. Yeah, I guess we'll do research again. Soviets doing the Great Purge there. And of course the nationalists are going to win. Do they have support from people? Yeah, they do, so it's supporting them, but yeah, basically the Republicans always seem to lose. Seems it's I don't know. It seems harder for the Republicans to win these days than it used to be. But oh no, and there's another little thing. The Protector of Morocco is released as well. Well, not just released, but they're added to the game. Just because one of the things I'd like to do in future is make Africa more interesting place to fight, rather than just being, you know, French and British basically, and Italian. It'd be kind of cool if there was just more colonies and they were slightly out of your control. And so I might even do that with Italy, with Libya in future, because I think it was like a separate administrative zone. So even though, you know, players like generally to have control over everything, it probably would be a good representation of, well, how it was, and also the difficulty of, you know, of fighting and controlling over far-flung regions. If there were, you know, a puppet or dominion or colony or whatever of Italy, and you kind of just had to push them in the right direction rather than have direct control. Maybe that would be sort of interesting. And then choose whether you had to divert mainland troops over and that kind of thing. So I might do that in future, but maybe slowly, because I feel like it would be somewhat controversial. Let's boost communism, please. Although one of the downsides, perhaps, to maybe I should have gone civilian, I don't know, to flipping from neutral so quickly is that there are quite a few decent neutral events that happen for neutral countries that can help you grow a little bit quicker. Okay. Turning fascist pretty quickly. I could slow the effects down a little bit, maybe, but I mean, I guess now the AI is just a lot more effective at choosing ministers. So it used to feel like they took forever to flip, but maybe now I can reduce the effects of those. And what are the? Let's look at the Commonwealth and see what they're doing. 'Cause sometimes they tend to stay democratic, so that they're not too annoying for the player, but they do have a chance of not. And I've seen that happen. Like, looks like we're going to have a fascist New Zealand, for instance. Canada, what are you doing? Democratic. Okay, so Canada and Australia are staying democratic. South Africa, you're going fascist. Cool, that'd be cool. Hopefully they manage to do that before any war breaks out, so that they can choose to go their own path. That'll be interesting. So we have fascist South Africa and New Zealand, which if they manage to escape the Allies, then there could be a cool war between the Australians and the Kiwis. And the British Raj are, looks like, definitely going democratic this time. And what's better? It's November. Let's do maybe more construction speed. I'm not sure. I don't know whether it's really worth it, because I can't really build very much. Well, I think now I can go early mobilization, can I? No, I can't. I'm neutral still. And the recent patch also changed a few things, like adding in starting laws for the new laws that I added, because previously everyone started on level 2, and so now there's now they start with something a little more representative, maybe, of policies at the time, hopefully, and the country. Maybe I'll look at what these laws do, since again, people might not have played. So one of the new laws is policing laws, which is basically affects your, well, it gives you a boost to political power, unlike the others, because it's an increase in the control that you have over the nation, basically. Originally these did actually drain political power, but someone suggested I change that, and it does make you actually buy these now, whereas before I tended not to. And they also reduce the effect of partisans and resistance. However, they do have a negative effect on national unity and democracy in particular. So as a democratic country, you probably don't want to go up this route too high, otherwise it will cause revolts against you and that kind of thing. So you have like militarization and defending the state instead of people, and state of emergency and martial law, which gives you a big recruitable population boost as well. As essentially you have the police as the army, essentially. And the other one was social welfare, which recently I've been thinking doesn't make as much sense for a Hearts of Iron game, where in reality it takes a decade or something to build up. I mean, not necessarily for all of these, but it takes a while to build up these infrastructure and institutions, and so maybe within Hearts of Iron it doesn't make as much sense, but for now that's what is here. And these give you boosts to factory outputs and national unity and that kind of thing, but these cost political power to maintain, so these are quite good. I mean, I usually always at least go to social housing or so, depending on who I'm playing, because you get extra factory outputs, which gives you more guns, somewhat ironically, I think, but for social welfare. But and now I'm going to go for, what am I going to do? I guess infantry equipment production for now, because I don't have the factories for anything else. But again, this is, maybe I'll change this later, if I get more, enough weapons, for, guns. Maybe I'll go for artillery or something, and I'll change this. And I want people to do that as well, is to change laws, not just kind of pick anything. It doesn't really matter that much, and I want you to kind of reconsider where you are in the game and change things around, especially ministers, because that's partly why they're cheap. And we can pick another one. Minister of Finance, see what there is here. Another construction speed, general construction speed here. A whole bunch of things. I like Union Man, he's good. He gives me a little factory output bonus. And the other new law, it's not really a law, but it's party propaganda. This is the sort of message your party is putting out there, and there's a whole bunch of options here. The bottom four, well, this one and these three, are basically affect the support for political parties. So these are kind of just allow you to boost yourself, and they're also a replacement for the political advisors that changed ideology, since those advisors no longer exist. So I put them in here. But you can also do things like affect the effect of partisans, reduce the effect of partisans, or increase repair speed, promote rationing, reduces consumer goods factory requirement, and that kind of thing, and a boost in national unity and so on. So yeah, these are useful. These drain more political power, but they are cheap to adopt, so you can kind of swap these out and you can choose none for free if you want to disable it. So these are, I actually added these, I think like just before or soon before they added continuous focuses, because they're essentially, that's what I was trying to do, and then they added continuous focuses, although these are more expensive, but some of them do cover the same area, and I haven't yet changed these because I will probably should, so there's no like duplication. But these are cheaper, so they still have a purpose. I tend not to. I mean, you tend only to use continuous focuses, I think, by the end of the focus tree, whereas these are kind of useful throughout. So I think they've still got a place. Just draw this here, just to get ready, even though it's not going to be for a while, and we can train some troops, I think. Since we have some weapons. Now maybe I'll... See, I kind of want to be aggressive, so... because I'll flip soon enough, or I should get the option to. And then I can attack. Seize the day. Can I justify already? No, I don't think so, right? No, I need to be communist. So I'll need the political power. Which you see I'm getting 0.1 per day from my surveillance state policing law. And I'm losing 0.25 because I'm pushing the hard left, which I can probably stop soon. So you have to think about where you want to spend political power. Excuse me if that drinking was loud and if I didn't edit it out. And sadly there is a bug here. They should have another idea. I need to fix that. So maybe we'll look around Europe, see what direction they're going in. Looks like Greece is you know, so-called neutral, maybe. Oh, they're democratic, heavily democratic, so... Looks like Bulgaria's going democratic too. Yugoslavia... kind of split. Okay, so there might be some democratic support down here. The Netherlands, some communists. Oh, is that a... No, they're kind of staying democratic. And they're going democratic too. See, sometimes I've seen like Denmark and Belgium even going fascist. But it looks like they're heavily going democratic this time. I've seen fascist Norway as well, which makes things interesting. Looks like Poland, yeah, they should be. I've weighted them to be neutral, basically. Although they can choose their ideology as well, but they tend to prefer neutrality. Just because I do want, that's one of the feedbacks I got when I first released it, is that there should, there was somewhat of a lack of like a backbone to the game back then. So I've tried to maintain it so that the mages stick to their ideologies, and a few key countries, sort of play their role, I suppose. Un-Iranian, no. We want communists. Let's do it. The Iranian Communist Authority. I wish I could see that flag bigger. But yeah, here we go. And they're already inviting me to the Soviet Union, or into the Comintern, which I don't think I'm not going to do that just yet. I think we have our own future to forge. So let's justify on somewhere. Doesn't really matter. And should I justify? See, if they flip, they can join the Axis. And so could Iraq, actually. So maybe I should just do it. Do it anyway. Perfect. Okay, there we go. And now we'll start. I mean, there aren't that many, unfortunately, just yet. But now we'll. We didn't really get any neutral events, which is a shame. Maybe I'll increase the speed that they pop up, but I don't want them to be annoying either. But now we'll get the few communist-specific events, and there are currently the fascists definitely get the best events. Which is something I need to balance out, but it takes time and work to do new events and things. But the fascists get some cool events around giving rallies and getting various bonuses from them and that kind of thing. So I'd like to add stuff like that represents the different ideologies more strongly. And in fact, there are sort of innate boosts to being on a certain ideology now as well, such as I get production efficiency retention bonus and efficiency growth bonus just for being communist, and the Allies or the Democrats get a innate slight boost to political power. And the fascists currently, because they have the best events, they just get an automatic suppression of subjects, which doesn't greatly affect the starting fascists, but can be very useful if you go fascist, and can be useful as Germany with Vichy France if you ever want to annex them later down the road. But currently the fascists get a lot of other boosts, so I didn't want to give them anything that was too strong until it's all balanced out, and then I'd like to make the ideologies feel more distinct without being too unrealistic or too comical or whatever. But I think like basic production bonuses for being communist I think makes some sense, and it's quite nice. And people have talked about or suggested adding extra ideologies and that kind of thing, and I don't ever intend to do that because it's a ridiculous amount of work and I don't think it's worth it, to be honest. But I also think that there's so much. Let's go down early now. Yes, because now we can build some more stuff. Tiny little bit. Probably wasn't worth it.